If you're here, I'm guessing you know that feeling. That feeling of being completely stuck, just exhausted. You want so badly to move forward, but it feels like you're fighting against invisible walls. Well, today, we're going to talk about why that happens, and more importantly, how you can start to take back the controls one small, brave step at a time. This is your guide to finally starting exposure and response prevention, or ERP.
This quote from Lily Bailey, wow, it just hits you right in the gut, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that raw frustration of being trapped in a cycle you didn't choose. It's a scream that so many people feel but never say out loud. And if that sounds familiar, I just want you to know you're not alone in feeling this way. And that feeling, it's the beginning of wanting something more.
All right, so let's get right into it. Why does taking that very first step, doing that first exposure, feel like trying to move a mountain? I promise you, it is not because you lack willpower. There's a really powerful process going on in your mind, and just understanding what it is, that's the first key to unlocking everything. At the very core of this whole trap is something called experiential avoidance. You know, it's a very natural, very human instinct to just run away from pain and discomfort. But here's the paradox. When it comes to things like anxiety, the more you try to avoid it, the bigger and stronger it gets. And your world, well, it just gets smaller and smaller. Now here's where it gets really sneaky. There's a concept from a psychologist named Russ Harris, and he calls the mind a reason-giving machine. Think about it. The second you even consider doing something difficult, like an ERP exercise, this machine in your head just starts firing up, cranking out all these totally logical-sounding reasons why you absolutely shouldn't. Do any of these sound familiar? I'm just too tired. It's way too hard. I'm just gonna fail anyway. And my personal favorite, I'm too anxious to start. See? It sounds perfectly reasonable. But this isn't a personal failing on your part. It's just the machine doing its job. The trick is to realize these aren't facts, they're just thoughts, produced by a mind that's trying to keep you safe by keeping you stuck.
So, how in the world do you work with this machine instead of constantly fighting a losing battle against it? Well, it all starts with a really powerful reframe, a totally new way of looking at the entire problem. It's about learning to see your pain not as your enemy, but actually as your ally.
This slide lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got OCD's story, Theory A. This is the trap. It says your scary thought is a real danger, and you have to do something about it right now. But the truth, the way out, is on the right. It's Theory B. The real problem isn't the content of the obsession. The real problem is the cycle of anxiety itself, and all your attempts to control it are just making it stronger. Seeing this difference is the key that starts to unlock the cage.
And here's the really cool science that makes all of this possible. Your brain isn't some fixed, concrete block. It is constantly changing and adapting based on what you do. It's called neuroplasticity. And what that means is, every single time you choose to do a new action, every time you face a little bit of fear, you are literally forging new pathways in your brain. You have the power to rewire the very organ that's causing you trouble. This is so important to really let sink in. A thought, no matter how loud or scary or demanding it feels, is just a suggestion. It's just a little electrical impulse. It's like a pop-a-bat in your brain. It is not a command. You, the real you, still have the power to choose whether or not you're going to click on it. And reclaiming that power of choice, that's the heart and soul of recovery.
Okay, so if we have this power to choose, how do we actually start using it, especially when it feels so hard? Let's get really practical here and build a toolkit that you can start using today.
So the first tool in our kit has a bit of a fancy name, cognitive diffusion. But all it really means is learning how to unhook from your thoughts. Instead of getting all tangled up in them, you learn to take a step back and just observe them for what they are, just words and pictures floating through your mind. So when that reason-giving machine starts up, you can practice diffusion with a simple little phrase like this. You're not arguing with the thought. You're not trying to prove it wrong. You're just noticing it. You're naming it. Ah, there it is, the "I'm going to fail" story. Thanks for sharing, mind. It creates just a tiny bit of space. Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine you're standing on the sidewalk, and your thoughts are just cars driving by on the street. Some are quiet little Priuses. Others are loud, obnoxious monster trucks. Your job isn't to run out and stop the traffic or get into arguments with the drivers. Your job is just to stand on the sidewalk and let them pass by. Now, if you want a more structured way to do this, you can use what are famously known as the 4 steps. Step 1. Relabel. See the thought and just name it. Nope, that's not me. That's an obsession. That's my OCD. Step 2, reattribute. Remind yourself what's causing it. This is just a glitch in my brain, a misfiring signal. Step 3, refocus. This is the action part. You actively move your attention to something else, something constructive, even for just a few minutes. And over time, doing this leads to step 4, revalue. You start to see the obsession for what it really is, just meaningless noise that doesn't deserve your time or energy.
Okay, so we've got our tools for creating some distance from our thoughts. How do we actually apply this stuff? How do you take that very first, concrete step into doing an actual exposure?
You start by breaking it down. You absolutely do not have to tackle your number one biggest fear on day one. Instead, you create what's called an exposure hierarchy. It's just a list of things that scare you, ranked from, a little bit scary all the way up to absolutely terrifying.
So where on that list you start? Right here, in the sweet spot. You pick something that gives you a mild to moderate amount of anxiety. Therapists use a scale called SUDS, or Subjective Units of Distress Scale. You want to pick something that's around a 40 to 60 out of 100. It's got to be challenging enough that you feel it, but not so overwhelming that you just shut down.
And when that anxiety does show up, and believe me, it will, this is where you have to reframe what that feeling means. That feeling isn't danger. It's not a warning sign. It's the feeling of your brain learning something new. It is the feeling of your emotional muscles getting stronger. It's actually the feeling of progress.
Now, the real secret ingredient to making any of this stick is repetition. Doing one exposure isn't going to magically rewire your brain, but repeating it over and over and over again, that's what starts to carve out those brand new, non-anxious neural pathways, until eventually they become the brain's new default road.
And I really can't stress this enough. Frequency is everything. Effective ERP isn't something you just do at your therapy appointment once a week. It needs to be a daily practice. I mean, think about all the time that OCD takes from you. You need to replace that time with consistent, repeated practice to really make those new pathways stick.
And let's be really clear about what the goal is here. All this hard work, it's not just about fighting anxiety or getting rid of obsessions. It's about winning your life back. The motivation, the fuel you need to do this hard work and to face that fear, it comes from your values. Your values are your why. They're the compass that points you towards the life you actually want to be living, a life that is so much bigger and more meaningful than your anxiety.
So what is it that you truly care about? Is it connecting with your friends? Is it growing in your career? Is it being the kind of parent or partner or person you really want to be? These are the things that OCD tries to steal, and these are the very things that ERP can help you reclaim.
So I want to leave you with this question. Just take a second and imagine a life where anxiety isn't the one calling all the shots. What is one thing, just one small thing, you would do? Hold on to that answer. Let that be your reason. Let that be the fuel for taking your very first step.